All right, so I'll go ahead and call the school board meeting to order at this time. And we do have a couple of changes to the agenda, so let me just go through those very quickly. All right, first of all will be the administrative personnel appointments, 2.1, deleted item 5.1. Appointment of Director, Exceptional Student Education and Student Services at the request of Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. Consent agenda, correction to item 8.10, deletion of the notice of intent document attached to the memorandum of understanding between the Okaloosa County School District and the I Love You Guys Foundation at the request of Mr. Steve Horton, Assistant Superintendent, MIS. Added item 8.15, request to advertise a public hearing for adoption of the 2019-2020 Code of Student Conduct, Elementary and Secondary. Consider an emergency item so that the advertisement timeline and the public hearing can be held prior to the first day of school. So with those changes, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Destin.
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Kelly. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. All right, so moving down to section 3, there are no recognitions. Section 4, we are looking at visitors, and there are no visitors. Excuse me, folks, my computer just jumped here. Let's try it again. All right. Moving on to section 5, 5.1, deleted appointment of Director, Exceptional Student Education and Student Services recommended by the Superintendent for approval. And then 5.2, appointment of Principal, Riverside Elementary School recommended by Superintendent Markus Chambers for approval. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. As you know, we have a few appointments this evening. We're going to go ahead and start with Melissa Curley. Melissa Curley grew up in Niceville and is a product of the Okaloosa County School District. She attended Blue Water Elementary, Ruckle Middle School, and finished at Niceville High School, where her picture still hangs on the Wall of Fame. Ms. Curley attended the University of West Florida, where she earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education in K-6 with her ESOL and reading endorsement. Her career began as a second grade teacher at Northwood Elementary School in Crestview. Looking forward and knowing that administration was her passion, she enrolled in Educational Leadership Master's Program through the University of West Florida. After completing her degree, she had the opportunity to serve as Northwood's guidance counselor as a teacher on special assignment. Moving closer to her life goal of being a principal, she decided to apply for the assistant principal position at Riverside Elementary, where she spent the past 4 years working and training under her mentor, Ms. Tammy Matz. While learning and growing alongside her staff, she had the opportunity to work with the contract negotiations team, the PPP committee, and became a trauma-informed trainer. She has since trained several of Okaloosa County's current employees and several newcomers during their orientations. Mrs. Curley believes every student should end each year with at least a year's worth of growth. She plans to lead with positivity, encouragement, motivation, and praise. It is important to her that her students and teachers have a growth mindset about themselves and their academic success. She believes partnerships with parents and the greater community are essential to enriching the experience at Riverside Elementary. Ms. Curley is over the moon excited to have reached this goal in life and can't wait to see what the future holds. During her free time, Ms. Curley enjoys spending time with her family, shopping, and going to the beach. She is the proud wife of Michael and mother of 3 precious children, Malin, Kendall, and Maddox. Melissa Curley.
Very good. Need a motion, board members.
Dr. White, I'll be honored to make that motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Bryant.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Superintendent.
Thank you.
Today, I have reached a life goal. Thank you, Honorable Board Superintendent Chambers, for your confidence in me to continue striving for excellence at Riverside Elementary. Moving forward, my focus will be to lead with a mission alongside of my wonderful faculty and staff who came out tonight to show their support. I look forward to continuing to serve, empower, and motivate the students, parents, and greater Crestview community. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
This is where the family comes out.
Of course, Mr. Bryant. Thanks, Ray.
Congratulations.
All right, so moving on now to item 5.3, appointment of Assistant Principal 2, Mary Esther Elementary School, recommended by Superintendent Markus Chambers for approval. Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bryant.
I'll second.
We need a name first.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chambers.
Yes, sir. So I bring before you Miss Julianne Smith.
We'll hold your motion.
Mrs. Smith has had a heart for students since she first began her career in education 21 years ago. After completing her bachelor's degree in education at New England Teachers College, Ms. Smith earned a master's degree from Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, and her educational leadership degree from George Washington University in D.C. Ms. Smith taught in the classroom for 16 years and has since been serving the teachers of Okaloosa County as an instructional coach and then delivering professional development to English, language arts, and social studies teachers as a curriculum specialist. Mrs. Smith believes in and has a heart for servant leadership. Mrs. Smith says that she was introduced to the real meaning of servant leadership when she first met with Mary Esther Principal Jason McClellan 2 summers ago to discuss her internship for the OCSD Leadership Program. Mr. McClellan was sweeping his school cafeteria with a push broom before his students came in for breakfast. He saw something that needed to be done for his students, and he jumped in to do it. She is grateful to her husband, Mark, and wishes to thank him in advance for all the ways he will also be assisting as she settles in at Mary Esther Elementary School. Julianne Smith.
Now
Chairman,
need
if
a
I
motion.
may make a motion to
Yes, sir.
approve.
Yes, sir. Motion by Mr. Destin.
And I'll second it.
Now second by Mr. Bryan. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
You want to call it forward?
Thank you very much, Board. I'm very honored to have the opportunity to serve our students in Okaloosa County, and I am very pleased to work with Mr. McClellan and the other staff at Mary Esther Elementary School. Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope to do you proud.
I'm sure you will. Congratulations.
I think so.
How are you, Markus? Good. See you.
Still wet. That made it unleashed. Then traffic back there. And I left earlier than normal. Moving on now to 5.4, appointment of Assistant Principal 2, Lewis School, recommended by the Superintendent for approval.
So I bring before you Mr. Nick Koutsaratis. Mr. Koutsaratis is a 25-year educator with the Okaloosa County School District. He has served as a social studies teacher, dropout prevention teacher, and coach at Baker School and Crestview High School, as well as an assistant principal for Baker before serving as an assistant superintendent for the district. He earned a bachelor's degree in secondary education from California University of Pennsylvania and a master's of education in educational leadership from the University of West Florida. Mr. Koutsaratis.
Very good. Need a motion, board members?
I'll move.
Motion, Dr. Kelly.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Evancheck. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Chambers?
Well, this is a familiar place.
I bet.
I just want to say thank you to the superintendent and the board for allowing me to continue my career at Lewis School. It's a wonderful school, and I love the faculty and staff there. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Congratulations, sir.
Thanks.
All right, so moving on now to 5.5. Appointment of Assistant Principal to Lewis School, recommended by the Superintendent for approval. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, sir. I bring before you Mr. Jordan Berry. Jordan Berry was born and raised in Bradenton, Florida, where he graduated from Manatee High School in 2003. After lettering in baseball, he was recruited by Central Florida Community College to play for 2 years. While at Central Florida Community College, he received his AA degree. Mr. Berry continued his baseball career at the University of West Florida, where he earned his bachelor's degree in history. In 2008, Mr. Berry began his teaching career at Escambia High School in Pensacola, Florida. During his time at Escambia, he taught intensive reading, world, and U.S. history classes while coaching cross country, girls soccer, and baseball. Mr. Berry met his amazing wife Liz in 2008, and they married in 2010. They have 2 beautiful children, Natalie and Jack. Mr. Berry and his family moved to Niceville in 2014 and began teaching social studies at Lewis, where he continued his coaching career. Mr. Berry earned his master's degree in educational leadership in 2018 from the University of West Florida and was hired the following year to serve as the Dean of Students. Mr. Berry.
All right, very good. Need a motion, board members?
I'll move.
Motion, Dr. Kelly.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Evancheck. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Chambers.
Just want to thank Mr. Chambers and the board members. Want to thank that amazing faculty back there. Can't wait to start working for them. It's been amazing working with them. Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Dr. Kelly.
Now it's breaking the rain. A little bit.
Crazy coming up. I left at 5:15.
I know. I left it All right, so I'll do our customary 3-minute recess, and I think there might be a break in the rain. So we recess for 3 minutes.
Sitting in the stoplight in front of the Dagon Gate. It's red.
All right, so we'll go ahead and reconvene the school board meeting, and we'll move on now to section 6, public comment. And so we have two folks that have asked to speak tonight. The first one is Mr. Patrick Ryan. Mr. Ryan, would you please come up, sir? Mr. Ryan, I know you filled the card out and you read all the information. I think I see 252 Old Post Road.
That is correct. Drop
Okay.
by anytime.
All right. And Mr. McInnes normally goes over the rules with every speaker. So, Mr. McInnes?
Mr. Ryan, you'll have 4 minutes to make your presentation.
Okay.
All right, sir.
Thanks very much. Good evening. I'm a member of Yes for Okaloosa Schools, a citizens advocacy group which believes our county would benefit by switching to an appointed superintendent model. And I appreciate your researching how the citizens of Okaloosa can bring this about. Several weeks ago, when the matter first came up at a board meeting, Mr. Destin said that the last such referendum was rejected by the voters. That's correct, but I'll point out that last referendum was in 1996, which was 23 years ago. Almost a quarter of a century has passed since then, and a lot's changed in Okaloosa County. Our population has grown by about 25%, and we've gained a worldwide reputation as a premier vacation spot. Our thriving military bases have seen dramatic mission and personnel growth. We've built a new airport which continuously adds more airlines and service to more cities around America. The bottom line, Okaloosa County is a lot different than it was in 1996. Historically, many Florida counties which have switched to the appointed superintendent model have had referendums on the subject fail, only to be later passed by the voters. That's not at all unusual. We are confident that as we educate voters on the appointed superintendent model, they will understand that it's beneficial to put the decision to hire and, if necessary, replace the superintendent into the hands of 5 elected officials like you, who are experienced and knowledgeable about school district finance, personnel, and operations. In fact, I believe that between all of you, there's over 100 years of collective educational and school board experience, school board membership experience. I reviewed your comments made at last Thursday's workshop, and I want to address a few of them for you. In discussion with local voters, we've found that a significant number of local residents simply aren't aware that we can make the change to an appointed superintendent model, and thus make it so that accountability in our school district's leadership is enforced right here in Okaloosa County, rather than relying on a politician in Tallahassee for accountability. We've begun a broad outreach program relying on conventional media outlets, a detailed and informative website, extensive social media presence, and widespread community outreach through face-to-face contact at locations and events where diverse groups of voters congregate across the county. We also believe that you want to hear from your constituents on this matter. Via our website, we're giving voters the opportunity to more easily contact you. With regard to the emails that you've received, let me clarify that Yes for Okaloosa Schools is not sending automated emails to you or to anyone. We have set up a system online to make it easier for your constituents to contact you about this important issue. Every email you received and will receive in the future comes from an individual who wants to improve our school system, not from Yes for Okaloosa Schools. As far as the number of emails you've received, that number will be somewhat low initially, as we've just started this effort. I'm confident the numbers will grow as we reach more and more of your constituents. Regarding the cost of an election, Supervisor of Elections Paul Lux has told me that a special election would entail a large bill in excess of $175,000. However, holding a referendum in conjunction with an already scheduled county-wide election would only incur a cost of $3,000 to $5,000 for mandatory advertising. We are not asking you to vote on or propose a resolution tonight. We believe it would be premature at this stage. However, as our voter outreach efforts continue, I'm confident you'll see a majority of citizens will support taking a significant step toward making our school district leadership accountable to our citizens here.
You have
and
10 seconds, sir.
Thereby enhancing the education and safety of our system. In closing, I just want to read a quote from Superintendent Gates, former Superintendent Gates in the Bay Beacon, and he said, There's certainly nothing wrong with having a public discussion of the issue and asking the voters what method of selection they prefer, end quote. We can entirely agree with that statement. Thank you. Are there any questions
Thank
I can
you,
answer?
Mr. Ryan. There may be. Let's
I am
ask-
prepared to answer them, sir.
All right, let's ask the board members. Colleagues, any questions or comments?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Evanche?
With your group, hi there, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Are you said putting it on the ballot for a referendum on the ballot coming up. So I'm assuming you're talking about in March 2020?
Well, that's the next opportunity.
Okay. So is that your goal, or are you open to?
Well, I believe that should the voters of Okaloosa County feel that this is the way to go, then we would want to do that at the first opportunity. So we haven't stated that as an outright goal of Yes for Okaloosa Schools. We haven't really talked about timing. We're really just talking about right now trying to educate voters. But I'll tell you what I can do is as we go out and we reach voters and talk to them and get their feedback, we can ask that question, and we'll certainly be happy to come back to you with that. But yes, that is the first opportunity.
So if that would pass, then what would happen is that would take effect in the November 2020 election?
Well, I believe that what would happen is the current superintendent would complete the term that ends in November 2020, and then the new superintendent would come in November 2020. Now, I know there may be some discussion or some thoughts about, well, that's not enough time to set up all the situation or set up all the policies and do a search. I think that because there are currently 26 counties in Florida that have a great depth of experience and breadth of experience with this model, I'm not suggesting we go cut and paste policies from other counties. But this is not a wheel that needs to be reinvented. It's already being done with great success across many counties in Florida. So there's great institutional knowledge and experience in the state to do that. So I just don't think that if we had the referendum in March, that November is an unreasonable timeline. I think it could be easily done by November. I mean, let me say this too. As a retired military person, I've planned wars and significantly larger military operations in far less time with far less resources. So I think it can be done.
And another concern I had was, as far as I know, we already have one person who has legally indicated they are a candidate for the position. So if we wait till March of 2020, then that person is already entrenched in that, and we possibly may have other candidates at that time.
Yes.
So I'm concerned about, is that really fair to them to have spent that amount of time campaigning, raising money? Have you looked into that situation?
Yes, it's covered in state statute, and I don't actually have the reference in front of me exactly how any funds that have been raised or committed are disposed. And this is probably a question really that the attorney should look into. I believe they can be donated or moved over should that individual decide to enter another race. So, that's good, but also let me make the point. Certainly we want to try and be fair to everyone in Okaloosa County, but I really would say that I think our job as Yes for Okaloosa Schools and your job as the school board is to primarily, first and foremost, look out for the interests of your constituents, the voters, and the children, the students of the district, and the families whose children are educated every day. That has to be first and foremost above everything else. So again, I don't think it's unfair, and I think anyone who pre-qualifies for a race understands there's a risk of some change, but then I think it's also fairly dealt with in state statute how to dispose of funds.
Okay.
Anything else?
I just have
Dr. Kelly?
one comment, and
Sure,
this
Doctor.
certainly isn't the venue to vet every point, but I have
How
talked
much
to.
time do y'all have? Do you hear on that?
I have talked to some of my colleagues across the state who have moved from elected to appointed, and I share some of their comments. But I'll just say tonight that what strikes me in the moment, regardless of the research, is that we have been an A+ district since the inception of grading schools. I believe that was 1996 when we had our first grade. And in that time, we have maintained that A+ status through fiscal hard times, through aging facilities, through concerns of leadership. And from the research and the discussions I've had, it seems like the impetus for most of these decisions to go forward with such a referendum is due to degradation of school grades and or extreme diversion of student achievement going down. So I don't see that as a rationale for our going forward. So is this a juncture at which you would like to say your rationale?
There's a lot of rationale, and again, I don't want to be here all night. And what I'll offer to do is if at any time in the future, I mean, we have a PowerPoint presentation that we can bring in. It's probably more like a 15 or 20-minute presentation. We can give that to you individually if you like to see more.
That would be good.
That's probably better than boring everybody at a school board meeting. But let me just go back to your point about the A+ school. You're absolutely right. I mean, this has been an A+ district, but I'm going to say that, and you talked about some leadership problems in the past, and let me say we're not going to dwell on the past. We look forward. But I'm going to argue that this is an A+ district, not because of leadership, of consistent good leadership, but in spite of some of the bad leadership that we've had. I think it's an A+ district because we have extraordinary teachers, we have extraordinary staff, dedicated people who go out there, your frontline employees who do that job day in and day out. So
and I would concur. However,
you can have an A+ district because you've got such outstanding employees, but then you can also have, as we just saw, a very difficult situation that wreaks havoc throughout the district, that's going to create fallout that we're probably going to deal with for a long time. We can fix that without seeing a decrease in school performance. And I do have some statistics on that. It's part of our PowerPoint. I won't go into it tonight, but I'll be happy to do a comparison of appointed districts versus elected districts, and I'll tell you exactly what that metric is between the two of them. I'll just say the appointed districts statewide on average have a slightly higher score on that metric than the elected districts do on average.
I'd love to see that.
I'll be happy to give it to you anytime.
Some organizations have other statistics, but thank you for your information.
We should share them all, I think.
Yes, let's do. I look forward to seeing your PowerPoint. Thank you for being here. We've
Thank you,
had
Doc.
interesting discussions before, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Doc.
Anything else, colleagues? Well, Mr. Ryan, I think from your remarks that we might anticipate seeing you again.
I'd say that's fair.
Okay. Well, very good job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us
Yes,
if you
sir.
have any questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you again for your time.
Yes, sir.
Before we go to
Yeah,
the next
sure,
speaker,
sure.
Mr. McInnes, remember you were going to mention to us, and I don't know, I'm thinking this might be a good time to talk about that procedure before we have another speaker on this topic. And so, what is the procedure to make that change?
The statutes vest in the school board the authority to adopt a resolution that calls for an election to put that issue on a ballot before the voters. So your process here would be that in a public setting, you would adopt a resolution if you chose to do that, that would call for there to be an election, placing the issue of whether or not the position of superintendent should be appointed in Okaloosa County. We would then send that resolution on to the county commission, and it is ultimately them that would vote to place it onto the ballot. Their role in that is primarily ministerial, in that they're the ones that can give the supervisor of elections that information and that authority. There would be a cost involved in the election, but as Mr. Ryan said, if it's held during a scheduled countywide vote, such as a March, August, or November election, the costs are much less significant than if you have a special election and have to foot the bill for all of that. I did talk to Mr. Lux about this, and my understanding is that from the standpoint of impact on the position and the term of a superintendent, if it is held in March of next year, then if it were to pass, it's his understanding, Mr. Lux's understanding, that would then negate any election for that position to come in August or November. If, however, the election is not held in March, and if it were held in August or November, then the candidates would have already legally qualified to run, and it's his understanding that once they have officially qualified, then the election goes forward, and whoever's elected serves the term that they're elected to. So that even if in August or November, the question passed the voters to make the position become appointed, that would not take effect for 4 years until that term had ended.
So it would default to the next election?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, there would be no other election. I mean,
Oh, yeah, to the
election-
next, what would be
Cycle.
election,
election
the
of
next 4 years,
2020
in
would
other
be the
words.
last election if it had passed.
Okay, and then the fee that we're talking about to get it on a ballot, if there's already an election for a ballot, is that something that the school board would, or the district would have to pay for, or is that something that citizens could pay for?
Well, all I can say is that somebody has to pay for it, but there's
Okay.
no requirement that the school board.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, you'd have to know that going in. I mean, if you didn't have some other provision to have it paid for, then the county is going to require that someone be responsible for the payment of those costs.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, yeah, all right, very good. All right, so let's go ahead now and move to our next speaker, and Ms. Peggy Mitchell. Welcome, Ms. Mitchell. And I think you probably heard the lawyer say that you've got 4 minutes.
Yes.
Mr.
I
Bryant's
do.
the timekeeper, and he'll let you know when you get close.
Okay, thank you very much.
And
Well,
the
thank you.
board may have questions for you
All
also.
right. Right, and good evening. I'm Peggy Mitchell, resident of Okaloosa County. I'm here to speak to the board about putting the referendum on the March 2020 ballot that would allow voters to decide to elect a superintendent. First, I want to thank you for your service. Thank you for looking out for the best interest of our students, our teachers, supports personnel, and our entire community. This is a task that's not always easy. I think many of you are learning that on the job. Voters selected each of you to serve on the board because we trusted you to make the right and fair decisions. We know that you're aware of and concerned about the recent issues with the superintendent in our county that is still ongoing. And I don't know about you, but when it initially happened, I was very angry and frustrated. And I even looked up on the internet how to impeach an elected official. And it's not like me, but that's how frustrated I was with the entire situation. When I applied for a job in this county in 1984, besides my resume, I had to have 6 letters of recommendation. We hire highly qualified teachers. That's what we're searching for all the time. We hire coaches who have experienced successful records. If you wanted to go to a doctor, you're going to hire a doctor who's highly skilled. So why don't we hire a superintendent who is highly educated, highly effective, highly experienced, and highly skilled? We trust that it would take the politics out of our system. It would turn it over to you trustworthy individuals along with a community committee to field those applications for superintendent, and thereby giving a better experienced person for the job. Now, I would like for you as the school board to take the lead in this issue. As citizens, there really isn't anything we can do except to plead with you and ask you kindly to put the referendum up for a vote and allow your constituents to decide if they want to continue to elect or to change the avenue of selecting a superintendent by hiring one. And I know that appoint and hire are 2 different things. I keep using the word hire because that's what my expectation is. You're just not going to point out in a crowd, you're it. It's going to be a definite research to find someone qualified. And they can obviously be from our county. We have many highly qualified individuals in our county who could serve as superintendent and be hired as such. So I hope that you will give it more thought and really allow the voters to decide. I think that's really where I'm coming from. I don't have any other recourse but to ask you, please, put it on the referendum, let us explain it to the voters, and then if they decide, so be it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
And I hope you consider referendum.
All right, they may have some questions, so
Okay.
let me ask.
All right.
Colleagues, Ms. Vanchuk, I'll start down your end.
As you've been in the community with this topic, what kinds of feedback are you getting? Mr. Ryan said that he felt like a lot of citizens weren't aware about the process. Are you hearing that, or what are you
Yes,
hearing?
that's exactly what we're hearing. The fact that they're not aware that it's even an option. they just think it's same old, it's the government, it's politics, we can't change anything. And once I explained to them, yes, if we have this referendum, we can have the school board hire a superintendent and get someone that have listed credentials. I'm embarrassed to say that I voted for individuals that I didn't know all their background experience. I went on good faith, and sometimes that backfired on me. It's hindsight, obviously. But once I explain it to them, in fact, we had a meeting recently, and all I was allowed to do is have a straw poll vote and ask a question, would they consider changing it? And very few people responded positively. But once I explained it to a group of individuals and gave them more information, then they went, oh, well, that's a better option. Maybe we should look at it. And that's all we're really asking you to do, is give the voters an opportunity. Because if you don't put the referendum on the ballot, it's business as usual, and we have no recourse other than, and I'm sure we can get good, positive people as superintendents, but what if it happens again? Shouldn't we try to avoid that kind of a situation again? So I really would appreciate if you would put it on the referendum. March 2020 would be the best for us. Have any other questions?
Anything else, colleagues? Well, I just have one question, and it may be something that goes your way, Mr. McInnes. I know we said March 2020, but I don't know what the supervisor of elections notice, what kind of timeline that he might have should there be such a resolution of the school board. Might you know, Ms. Mitchell, that?
And I think if Pat positively does know, if he can interject,
Okay,
but I
would you
believe
come
it's...
forward, Mr. Ryan? Because
Yes.
I think the board may be interested in that information.
When Mr. Lux told me in an email about 6 or 8 months ago,
Okay.
was it for a measure to be added to an already scheduled countywide election,
All
and
right.
he would need 90 to 180 days of lead time. Commissioner Fountain at the Board of County Commissioners has said they would probably do a pretty quick turnaround on it. It's the way I understand it, and you'll have to ask Mr. McInnes. Their job is, I guess, to QC it, make sure it complies with the law, and it's funded, and then they just instruct the supervisor elections to put it on there. So that's the timeline. I mean, what you would need to do is probably pass a resolution sometime in the August-September timeframe, roughly. But I would say please have more discussions with Mr. Lux about that and get that from the horse's
Well,
mouth.
I'll turn that over to you, Mr. McInnes, so that the board members have some understanding of what they might be asked to do, and then the timeliness of when that ask might come. I think we might want to know that, and other folks do too.
So,
Mr.
Mr.
Bryan?
Ryan, is your
ma'am.
group prepared to pay that fee?
Are you talking about the fee for the mandatory advertising?
Yes.
I don't know if we're legally allowed to do that. I have actually asked the general counsel at the Division of Elections that question, and they are researching it, and they're going to get back to me. And Mr. Lux didn't know the answer to the question either. So you're talking about the $3,000 to $5,000
Yeah,
mandatory
so that's,
advertising.
Mr. McGinnis said somebody's got to pay for it, but it seems
Right.
a little shaky about who exactly is able to.
Right.
And who would be
It's-
responsible to.
It's
so-
unknown at this point.
Okay,
so.
all right. So that's something that I'm sure you'll be looking into.
Yeah, well, we are. As soon as I get an answer, we'll let you know. I mean, the question's been
Well-
posed to the attorneys there.
I think Mr. Bryant has, I'm sorry.
No,
You
no,
have
I'm
another
done.
one?
I'm done.
Okay, Mr. Bryant, I think you have something.
Just real quick, and we talk about, and first of all, I appreciate y'all. It's for both of y'all,
Okay.
because y'all both talked about it. First of all, I appreciate y'all being here tonight. It's always great to have public input. But my question would be, typically March, any type of election during that time cycle is the lowest turnout that we have. I mean, it's pretty pathetic, to be honest with you. I mean, in the city of Crestview, where I live, they just voted for mayor, and I think there was maybe 1,000 votes total for that particular. Why wouldn't you want to put it on the November when it's typically the busiest? Of course, we'll be going for president. We have a lot of big races going on that time to get get more people involved in the process instead of maybe narrowing it down to just a very small percentage who would vote in March.
Well, first of all, let me say this. The last superintendent of the schools election, it was less than 29% of registered voters that voted in that election. Okay, so what we see is a system that needs to be changed to get better constituent and voter input. And we figured the sooner we do that, the better. Now, the other thing that doesn't typically happen in those March elections is that there is a issue on the ballot that has generated great interest with that there's maybe, I don't want to say widespread disagreement, but I think one that has energized a significant segment of the population and actually gotten folks like us so energized that we're out there. You heard generally what we're talking about, and you've seen us on Facebook, I'm confident. Just if you want to follow us on Twitter or Instagram, you can sign up there too.
That's what I meant by my question, that we think we'll be seeing you again.
Oh yeah. You might see me when you go home tonight. I mean, just www.Okaloosa School or yesforokaloosaschools.com and Facebook, Twitter, you name it. But I'm sorry. Back to your question. I don't think in the past you've ever had, or at least not that I can remember, a citizen group that is going to try and energize the electorate. So I think you're going to have really good turnout.
We actually did for the half-cent sales tax. So, and of course that ended up dying. You talk about political.
That's money.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but you talk about the political side of
That's
things.
true.
Whether we have an appointed or elected, there's always going to be politics in there. I hate to tell you that, but there will always be politics in there.
Well,
And
there
I
won't be
appreciate
electoral
it.
politics
I understand
we're
that,
talking
but I'm just saying. But the question was, I was just curious why March and not put it on where you're going to have more of the population that actually tends to vote during a November or an election.
I just think if we're going to make a change, we need to make the change now. And I think of course, that's what the public is going to get to decide. And I think you're going to want to ask people that. If you get an email from somebody, I would ask them that question. But again, our point is, I think you're going to see better turnout on this one because we are going to do a lot to energize the voting public.
And I almost think as a voter, if you don't address the issue quickly and up front, and you wait, then they're going to think, oh, it's politics as
Yeah,
usual.
that's a good point.
Nothing's going to change, even after we've had these significant problems and issues, and they're just going to get more frustrated again. So we know you have their best interests at heart. We know that's why we elected you, because we know that you can do that, and you work hard to do that. And so basically we're placing our faith in you, requesting that you'll help us get it out to the public, and then let the public decide.
All right, very good. Anything else? Mr.
Presidential
Destin?
presidential preference primary, is that in March?
That's it, yes.
So that if it's at the same time, that will draw voters.
That's the already scheduled countywide election.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of questions to answer before we move forward, and I've got a whole list of them, and I'll be doing some research on, how long the contracts are for the 26 counties that do it. What's the average recruiting cost? The
salary
devil's in the
package.
details in those
Yeah,
contracts.
exactly.
A lot of them say that, if terminated inside a certain time period, you have to pay the whole contract. All of that would be subject to negotiation, but, I appreciate y'all bringing the issue forward, and I'll try to do my homework on it.
Well, we appreciate y'all investigating it as well.
And we have done some of that homework already. I mean, I've already reviewed some of those contracts. If I can help you out, I'll be more than happy to.
Thanks.
Ms. Mitchell, you have something to hand to us?
Yes, if you would like, this is our little handout that
Sure.
tells you how to locate more information. It's our website, our Twitter, our Instagram, and text to connect to our website.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
We certainly do appreciate you allowing us to address you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being involved and concerned citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, colleagues, so let's go ahead now and move on to Section 7, that'd be committee and staff reports, and we covered these at our workshop. 7.1, in-county travel paid for the period of May the 9th through the 22nd, 2019, presented by Ms. Rita Scallon, Chief Financial Officer. Then 7.2, out-of-county travel paid for the period of May 9th through 22nd, 2019, presented by Mrs. Rita Scallon, Chief Financial Officer. And that now brings us to consent agenda. Item 8.1 will be the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bryan.
Second.
Second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Hearing or seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. All right, so let's slide on down now to Section 9, and that will take us to Superintendent's Human Resources recommendations. So 9.1 is an information item, employees on administrative leave, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. 9.2, deferred retirement option program drop, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, also an information item. 9.3, personnel recommendations, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. This is an action item, so I need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bryant.
Second.
Second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. 9.4, employment separations, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. I need a motion, please.
I'll
So
move.
moved.
I'll
Second.
defer to, okay, Dr. Kelly. Motion by Dr. Kelly, second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. 9.5, employee transfers, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. Need a motion, colleagues?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Bryant.
Second.
Second, Mr. Destin. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. 9.6, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. I need a motion.
I'll move we approve.
Motion by Mr. Destin.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bryant. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. 9.7, leave without pay, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. It's an action item, so I need a motion.
I'll move.
Motion, Dr. Kelly.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Evanchak. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. 9.8, reinstatement, reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, medical examination, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. Action item, so I need a motion.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Destin.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bryan. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. All right, so we have no items on the discussion agenda. Section 11 is construction program owners, representatives, business, and Mr. Destin, you work in that capacity for the board. If you have something, sir.
We have had a busy morning this morning,
All right.
looking at numerous task orders that are underway and continuing to work on our security component. And at this point, we're making good progress.
Very good, very good. I'm sort of excited to see, I hate to say this, but see the summer end so that
So we can start working
we
on
can
it.
see some of the
Yep.
progress that's been going on with some of the security items. Even though we can't talk about it, I think we'll be able to see it.
I think we'll like what we see.
I do too. All right. All right, so section 12. 12.1, CACI task order number 2-131 for installation of data drops at Shoal River Middle School, room 601, presented by Mr. Dustin Keith, specialist seat management, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. It's an action item, colleagues, so I'll need a motion.
I'll move we approve.
Motion by Mr. Destin,
Second.
second by Mr. Bryant. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. 12.2, CACI task order number 2-134, Okaloosa County School District Bosch district-wide CCTV upgrade project, presented by Mr. Dustin Keith, specialist seat management, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. I need a motion.
I'll move we approve that one.
Motion, Mr. Destin.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bryan. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Attorney, your business, sir.
No report tonight.
Very good. Superintendent, you've got some out-of-state field trips and other items you might have, sir.
Yes, sir. As you know, I made some comments on Thursday, but the one thing I would add is this Thursday I am excited that we'll be able to represent the school district at a safety roundtable by the Northwest Florida Daily News. That'll be this Thursday, so I'm sure that'll be a very interesting discussion, and I'm looking forward to taking part in it.
Very good. All right. Is that all?
That is it.
Okay, so now we move on to section 5.1, designation of a school board member to serve as a legislative liaison and alternate on the Florida School Boards Association Legislative Committee. Now, if I understood correctly, we had a volunteer.
Yep, I'm a volunteer again,
Right.
and I
All
think
right.
Dr. Kelly said she would
All right,
be
do we
my
need-
backup.
We need to vote on those individually, or can we vote on them as one?
Vote on it together.
All right, so we have Mr. Bryant, who has volunteered, and Dr. Kelly to serve as the alternate, so I need a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Mr. Destin, motion by Mr. Destin, need a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Evancheck. Any more discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you both for doing that. All right, so now we move on to board members' announcements and requests for information. Mr. Destin, sir, I'll start with you tonight if you have something.
Well, I don't have a request for information, but as all of us participated in graduations, that's what makes this job worth doing, to be able to shake the hands of all those high achievers is truly impressive and gratifying, so I will leave the comment at that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Destin. Mr. Bryant?
Just real quick, and we've received a lot of emails over the last few weeks over different topics, especially the group that was here tonight. I just want to publicly acknowledge that I have seen all the emails, and even though I haven't responded, only because there's just so many, and it's the same email pretty much on some of the subjects, I have read them and noticed them, and Ms. Mitchell and I forgot your name again, sir.
Ryan.
Yeah, of course, saw yours. But I do want to also say thank you for taking an active part in participating in what is a public. The public should take an interest in this, and we're glad that you were here tonight. But I would also echo Mr. Destin's comments about just the graduation process and all. And again, I would just want to say thank you to all of our folks who live stream these. And I think Mr. Horton actually has some updated numbers, if I'm not mistaken, from Thursday. So we got, so just to kind of tell everybody that, where we were, who was watching the live stream.
Yes, sir. We were over 5,000 views, and obviously some folks reminisce. They'll go back and view them a little bit more. Choctaw still held on to the top spot among high schools, so a great turnout on the streaming.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Horton. All right. Dr. Kelly?
Well, I could just echo the sentiments of both of those gentlemen who spoke before me. We certainly did have a great end of the school year season with awards and ceremonies and all the other things that go with wrapping up the school year. But I would also like to extend a very warm congratulations. We have a new grandparent. He's not with us tonight, but Steve Bolton, congratulations to he and his family on their new grandbaby.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
All right, Ms. Evancheck?
Okay, well, first of all, I know everybody knows that school's out, but I want to remind everybody that students are everywhere, and I pointed this out Thursday. I don't know what happened when they did that last bell, but the traffic just went with it. And I know all our students can't drive, but it seems like they're all out there driving. So we want everybody to be careful and watch for those students. Also, we have a lot of STEM camps happening this summer. On our website is a list, and looks really excited. I was wondering if we were eligible because it looked really good. So STEM camps out there, and also we started our summer school program today. So some of those students that need a little additional help. And I wanted to ask, I think this might be Mr. Horton, our summer feeding program, is that in place now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so is that list of all the schools that are doing that on our website? So if you're in need of that, that would be on our website. So thank you.
All right, very good. All right, colleagues, so let's move on now to section 16, public comment. Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to make any public comment? All right, seeing none. Oh, Ms. Mitchell, all right, you get 2 more minutes.
More information on Yes for Okaloosa Schools, I have a handout. If you'd like to take that at the end of the sheet. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Attorney, anything you think we need to? All right. Superintendent, you good?
Yes,
Ready
sir.
to conclude? Board members, we're okay here? Staff? All right. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Y'all pass that down. Yeah. Pass that down to Jan for me. Thank you. Coming your way there, Jan, on those cards.
Well, 23 people making public comment, voted on that.